day people don't want them there. They are telling them, go, because we don't want to do farming anymore.
Bablu and Mary, at least you have been an inspiration to what we are doing in Akshayakalpa from last 14 years. And some of the work what you are doing, especially at Timbaktu, it has been at least monumental and transformative on how we can actually work with nature and live along with nature and create communities who can depend on the nature. And nature, it could mean anything. It could be a farming ecosystem, it could be a grassland ecosystem. You have created communities where they don't borrow from banks, but they borrow among themselves. So beautiful, okay, systems like this you have created last 45 years. Okay, it's not a small amount of time. Maybe it's a lifetime's work, starting from 1990 to be precise, and 2024, 45 years. You put your energy behind communities and given voice to their dreams in terms of what they can do, what they can achieve, and the potential. Actually, you have other day when I was talking to some of the women groups, I can see the energy in their talk and decision making. I saw you just relaxing back and allowing them to make decisions. I think creating such a amazing initiative is called Timbaktu. I know, okay, this journey has not been easy, okay, neither to Mary, to you, nor, okay, Bablu, to you. Coming from a family, okay, of freedom fighters, I should say, and seen Quit India movements, okay, and later on, okay, being extremely active on the political side of it and getting the dissolution and getting into farming, what happened?
Well, it was partially getting into this work, first of all, moving. I am a city person. I grew up in Bombay, then grew up in Bangalore. And coming to the villages, uh, part of it has to do with the fact that my father was part of the Quit India movement, and that is something that is inculcated in us. You know, just the other day I was talking to a friend of mine saying that from the time I can remember, we grew up talking about the Quit India movement, the freedom movement, singing the national anthem, talking about the constitution, all through. And today, we have let down our kids. We have not discussed it with our kids. I didn't discuss with my children about the Quit India movement on it. But that time it happened because of my parents, because of whatever. So one grew up in that kind of a nationalistic thing, trying to understand what had happened and how it had happened. So it was one part. The other part was, you know, emergency happened, Jai Prakash Narayan happened, call of him. But the other side was we were these westernized, radicalized fellows, no? Listening to the Beatles and this Doors and things like that. So all that put together is what kind of moved me to the villages. And there was also a group of young people who were working lived in a commune, and that was attractive. So going to the village was itself a cultural shock, total cultural shock. And then, you begin to enjoy that. You begin to enjoy that as compared to the life you have led till then. So I was about 22, and I keep saying this to everybody. I landed there on the 1st of April, All Fool's Day, and continued working like a fool. So it's also foolish to get into agriculture, not knowing anything about agriculture. So we spent, Mary joined me halfway through that. Uh, so the first 12 years of both our journeys actually was more political work. I mean, not party politics, it was non-party political processes where we set up unions of farmers and agricultural laborers. We were doing that, and at one point I kind of got disillusioned with the whole thing. And I took a sabbatical, and that sabbatical I could take because Mary was there. She was earning the money and I was doing the reading and traveling, and I went to many farms. And so at that time I realized that I had never actually been part of the production process, right? Straight from university, I went into this work. So I was going on agitating against the production process and all that is there. But I myself had not experienced it. So I was working on someone else's idea and saying, you know, we must bring a revolution, we must throw these corrupt fellows out, and all that kind of stuff. So we decided, some of us who were part of this whole Marxist left-oriented people, that we must get into the production process. And I had just about read Masunobu Fukuoka, and that was very inspiring. And it's interesting, through Masunobu Fukuoka and Schumacher, I got into Mahatma Gandhi.
Wow.
And through Gandhi, I came to know about Kumarappa.
Wow.
And so all this, and then of course there was Lohia, and so I started doing more Indian reading of Indian intellectuals and activists and others. But what became very clear was that I needed to get into the production process. So actually Mary and the others were quite happy doing what they were doing. But I said I must get into it, and what best than get into agriculture, in theory.
No, amazing, isn't it, Bablu? That from a revolutionary thought process and fighting for same farmer rights and trying to see, oh, does it make sense? Then getting into the whole process of, okay, the production itself, okay, to whose rights you have been fighting. So we'll come back to that, Mary. So what made you follow Bablu? Is it love for Bablu, or is it that you wanted to support what Bablu is doing? Isn't it crazy? You are young, okay? 20, 25, 20, 30, you are young. And what made you follow him?
No, actually it was, anyway, I'm from a small village in Kerala.
No, you must say it. Mary did not follow me. Okay, there is no question about it.
Anyway, no, I'm from a small village in Kerala, like a really small village, big family, and living in a farm. And I was in love with Kerala and my village and my family, everything. But I noticed from when I was, I think, 6, 7 years old, that there is this big, something is not right between men and women. There is a disparity, there is an inequity, and there is something unfair that is not necessarily, that doesn't need to be so, you know. So that I noticed in terms of ownership of assets, education, opportunities, skills, mobility, you know, the whole spectrum of things, and certain qualities being attributed to women, and then but not really valued, economically no value, and the entire domestic work again no value. So this came to my notice, and I said, like, this is rather strange, and it does not need to be so. It made an impression on my mind. And same thing about poverty. And it's a rich place, there is good soil, lot of food, but some people are poor and some people are very rich and they have lot of food. Not necessarily happy, but lot of food and whatever, rich people. And there are some people who don't, like really very poor people. And that also was like, it doesn't really make sense that this does not look like there is enough for everybody, but then why so much disparity? So these two questions about gender equity or the unequal relation between men and women and the poverty, these two issues have really attracted my attention. And I took social work course after my graduation, and but in the social work course, I really didn't find much connect to the on the ground situation. So hence, after my course, I thought I will just maybe travel 1 year, especially outside Kerala, and see like. Because this whole thing about when I was studying also, I got more information about poverty in the country, and people are doing things about it. So I was curious. So that is the reason why I came out of Kerala. And of course, liberation theology was one stream that influenced me. Marxism was another. My uncle Sebastian Kappen was a Marxist scholar, and he used to have sessions with us. So that also made some impact on me, especially the class analysis part of it. And so I came and I came to RDT, Anantapur, met Father Ferrer, and then I went to Telangana. I worked, my 1 year plan is, got dissolved, and I worked there. Then I moved North Andhra, I worked with tribals there. And I met Bablu we had which you were one of the initiators of that, the main initiator of a collective of action groups, it was called, Southern Collective. So we had once in 3 months meeting, basically to discuss Marxist theory and praxis, yeah. So that is where I met Bablu. And the revolution, yeah. Okay. So that was, so for me the moving thing was this whole passion about gender equity. And also this wanting to do something about poverty, but very practical. I was always wanting to do something very practical. So after joining with Bablu, we worked, before joining with Bablu in the union's work, I had already completed 8 years of work in Telangana and in North Andhra. So in this, where Bablu was working, I took up one district and this agricultural labor union work. Yeah, it's true that it was fascinating, that kind of mass mobilizing and preparing an agenda and the dissent, the petitioning, so all that. But then it was not giving me answer to what am I doing on the ground about, So it was not that I didn't really want to continue that lifelong, because I thought like I want something more creative, more solution oriented, more alternative, more something I can see in my lifetime, some change, some impact, That was really, that was driving me. So hence, like when we left that organization, it was again starting from ground zero. So Bablu was really exploring more into ecology, farming, and I was also participating in all that. I started at that time, my first thing was I attended a training on seeds at Arrowville. So that made a deep impression on me.
No, but before that we did this course on permaculture.
Permaculture, yes, that's why I went for the seed program, yeah. Permaculture, yeah. So that, yeah.
Maybe on that point, see, you talk of a gender equality, and farming is one area where 75% to 80% of the work actually done by women.
Yeah.
But none of the decisions in that farming family actually women are equipped to make.
Yeah.
Most of the decisions are made by men. So it is amazing that 60% of the still our population still is in agriculture. So you can imagine if you can solve that piece of gender equality, empowering. And also some of the work what we have been doing in Akshayakalpa also, trying to see can we put money in women's hand, okay, rather than putting into men's account. Can we put simple act of transferring money to women's account? We have measured it. Savings in the family have gone up, okay, and the familial health has gone up, and children education actually is extremely well in families where we are transferring money to women's account. Out of 1,200 farmers, 400 farmers are women farmers. All the money goes to their account. Amazing change. So, but unfortunate that even at this stage also, we don't see that equality, at least in agrarian sector. When I visited Timbaktu, okay, last, I saw most of the operations are run by women. For example, winnowing, cleaning, packing, okay, organizing, lot of things. Is it some thought behind that, empowering women on some of the work which are going there?
Yeah, I don't, we didn't make much of a headway in there. But see, anyway, this is generations of background, right? It cannot be handled like that. But one thing what we thought was that creating a separate space, like one is like to look for a collaborative space where men and women can share decision making, money, everything, and respect one another, go forward. And if that is not possible, there is possibility of a separate safe space where women can practice, taking decision, implementing, which they are good at anyway. So that way our work on the savings and credit with women focus, entirely women. So that was again like, but it was like a very, very tiny bit, 10 rupees a month, coming into, even to getting that 10 rupee was a struggle for that woman. So today they are managing about this 58 crore, they are, all the decisions are there. So they are playing different role. Other than this whole thing, the whole glorious, glorified roles of women, mother, caretaker, this, that, fantastic, very good. But what about her intellect? What about her mind? What about her brain, her decision making, her multiple facets of her personality? So then by creating those different roles, leader of a group and getting 5 people together, which they are very good at, and then solving issues, caring for one another, then going to the next level of leadership, learning decision making. So that stepwise, that we have in our area, I think we made an impact there. And as you said, with that money, things really in terms of education, health, all that they could really.
I think we will come back to that. That is at least for me, actually, it shook my ground when I was talking to those women. They told they are lending 58 crores, 4 cooperatives and federated structure, and they are not even borrowed 1 rupee from a bank to make 58 crore lending happen.
And so illiterate also.
Yes, yeah. I think we'll come to that. That's one aspect. But Bablu, coming back, 800 rupees you purchase a piece of land, okay, per acre, okay. Was it a mad decision, you think, or it's a decision on the huff when you started plowing that land? So you share something on that, no? So
actually all our decisions were quite mad. First of all, making that decision, to quit and go do something else was that, you call that the tipping point. You move into something, but we had no blueprint. We did not know exactly what we wanted to do. Like here you had you're a trained agronomist. There is GNS Reddy, and you all had a vision, no? You all had a plan. GNS had a plan. He spoke about it when we used to talk. We had no such plan. All we knew was what we were doing was not making enough sense. And 12 years had gone. 12 years of our youth had actually gone into that. But the change where we moved was from this agitational politics to a politics of dissent. And within that, the understanding that we need to start doing constructive work. Because in many ways, though I do believe that agitation is extremely required. I mean, it is, you cannot but have agitation. But while you have agitation, you also need to do constructive work, like you guys are doing. Because we have to see in our lifetime what can happen and show people what can happen. So our whole thing was that, okay, we are fighting for a different society. Can we have that different society now? Was the whole. Therefore, we started with the idea of a flat organization, actually. Our starting point was that the organization that we build must be as flat as possible, you know, because that was living that life. Then we must live in houses that are not so energy intensive and all that. So we must, our housing, our whole living must be like a living museum. So those kind of things started making sense. Then I started doing agriculture. Didn't know anything about agriculture. At least Mary knows so much more about agriculture, but I had no idea about agriculture. Only Fukuoka and then Bill Mollison, and they make things look so nice and easy, you know. Do nothing farming, throw some seeds and sit back, ab hoga yaar. But that was not the case. And as we started doing this farming, nothing came back. And the crops were dying and the trees were dying, and as it is, you know, our district, how it is, we don't have rain, and realized that the soil was completely dead here. It was dead soil that we were working on. It had nothing in it. So we need to heal the soil. So that's where this whole thing about healing came to us, and we said that it's not just the land that needs the healing. It's not just the ecology here. I mean, the whole ecosystem needs healing. Humans, animals, plants, trees, everything. Like you talk about, grass. Nobody respects this bloody grass. I mean, it's so inconsequential, and people will do weediciding, When I started 45 years ago, when I first went there, I saw farmers growing at least 10 to 13 crops per acre. And there was over 10 to 12 weeds there that were edible. So they would leave it out in the fringes, they would leave it, they wouldn't touch that. And during that, the rainy season is when they have sown the crops and they are waiting, that's when hunger strikes, because there is no money. They have put all the money into this, and they are waiting, and the crops will come after few months. At that time they need food, and that's when they used to go and take those, and it's very healthy diet, and they would take those weeds and all that, and that would be part of their food, which was good food. And now you go, there is no weeds, there is no grass, there is nothing. So you were talking about grass, and we realized how important it is, and especially in the grassy savanna ecology of our place, right? And the relationship that it has to animals, and therefore to soil because of the dung, etc., etc., etc. So all this came about from an understanding that land and us, we really needed healing. So every part of our work, therefore, would go design in that direction unconsciously. It just would be there.
Isn't it interesting, Bablu, that a fundamental of a ecosystem where we are living, there is a tree, there is a grass, there is an animal, okay, there is a cheetah, there is a leopard, okay, there is a bird. We tend to ignore that. We believe, okay, we are central to that entire design, okay.
No. We are separate from that.
Yes.
There's some design, but we are separate.
Separate from that. Very different understanding, isn't it? What's happening in the current ecosystem. Of course, if you didn't know farming, but you started farming, you saw successive failures, and you started school of farming, and you started teaching young people farming.
Long later.
Later, yes. So how the transformation from a farmer who was struggling to make his ends meet to setting up a school, okay, to teach young people farming. So what is that thought?
That question you were asking, will young people come back to farming? So we had discussed this a lot, because we saw always that young people are just going. Not just young people are going, the older people don't want them there. They are telling them, go, because we don't want you to do farming anymore. Like, we were talking, no girls for the boys, and the girls in the villages don't want to marry those boys, those kind of things. We were convinced that it was all aspirations have changed, right? But we realized that it's not just aspirations alone. Because our education system is so bad that they have moved our children away from what is real, from plants, from trees, from animals. Those are all things that are in the museum or in the zoo. We get to know them only through the zoo. But like, this is dirty. This is dirt, no? I mean, this is dirty. So you can't roll in the dirt. You can't, bathe yourself in sand. It's wrong. And that is what the education has done to our village kids. And I keep telling this story, a group of kids from the school in Anantapur had come visiting us to see what we were doing. Their teacher brought them there. Groundnut crop was there. So one kid said, but where's the groundnut? I couldn't believe it. I said, where's the groundnut? Anantapur kid, the largest groundnut growing district in the country. The kid from the school is saying, where's the groundnut? I can't see it. I actually had to tell him, it's down, I have to take it out and show it to him. So that is the alienation that people in the rural areas have had from their parents' work, from land, from animals, whatever. So I realized that it's not that their aspirations only have changed. Yes, their aspirations have changed. There's no two ways about it. The fact is they don't know agriculture. They have no idea what agriculture is. So even if a family has 5 acres of land, even good land, the son or daughter has not participated in that because they've gone to school. Pedda Manshi, first generation learners means they have to be given all the respect and all that. So they don't do any work. So they actually don't know how to farm. They don't know how to dirty their hands. Their hands have never gotten dirty. Rural kids telling that pada galejga undi. To say that a dung is dirt, bad, was painful.
See, but Bablu, that's a fact. We need to agree.
No, so this is what I'm saying, that they don't know agriculture and therefore are scared to take up agriculture. It's not that they can't and they don't want to. Good land is there. They know that it's good land. But they don't want to do agriculture, not because of only aspiration, but because they don't know agriculture. And so we thought that we'll start a school to teach these young kids, 18 to 20, 21, and teach them what is agriculture. Once they know what is agriculture, then maybe they'll go back to agriculture. That was the idea, right?
I think Mary, in some of the conversations, she used to tell, you used to disappear in that behind the hills, and no coverage, not able to reach you. Okay, so Mary, how did you make these things happen? Bablu with interest in farming, so you had interest in getting these women organized. Okay, these communities organized. Is a Timbaktu is a collective thought of both of you, or how did you thought through what happened in Timbaktu?
Actually, it was like parallel streams, diversity of thoughts. So like when Timbaktu started, initially we were not sure whether to start an organization or maybe just focus on the land and get into farming. But I think what we looked forward is like giving expression to our together and different thoughts, or wanting to do things. So for me, I like this concept of a professional social worker. So either like social work, doing something for society seemed to be very much part of me. And if it is my profession, then why not, It's like if you are a foodie and you get to become a chef, so you will like it. So I said like, okay, this suits me. So I held that identity of a...
But Mary, some of those thoughts, aren't it radical? Bablu, you can also comment. When I was interacting with them, I realized Bablu took a step back and saying a organization, a federation which is federating a 58 crores lending, there's no formal banking system like, drawing big credit policies, approving centrally, decision making centrally, and entire decision has been given to cooperatives, 4 cooperatives which is being federated. And is it a original thought? It evolved over a period of time. I found that is quite radical. For example, 58 crore lending happening, and it is fully federated structure. Nobody meddles with where they borrow from, whom they lend it to, how they recover, for what they lend it to, which organization, which individual they lend it to, how they collect it. All of it is federated. Isn't it quite radical? Okay, is it evolved over a period of time, or you thought it like that? And why I am saying this one is, this is the kind of lending systems actually need for farming. Today, farming lending, is extremely difficult. What is called as a primary lending. 18 to 19% of bank lending is supposed to go to a direct lending into farming activities. That's what the government or a Reserve Bank of India policy says. But direct lending is not happening for various reasons, where we find, farmers are not being eligible, where we find, that the crops they are growing is quite risky, banks assess that there's a huge risk in the market side, there are a host of things evolve like this. But if federated systems like you, and you're able to lend, and when the ultimate, for me was there are no NPAs. So that's the ultimate, in that kind of a lending model.
NPA?
Yeah, it's not, people have borrowed money, and they have not held back that money, they have given back that money. There's no not performing asset, no defaults, From that kind of a system, to, is it possible agricultural ecosystem can adapt? We'll come to that, but why not? Why people are not copying that, Bablu?
Why they're not copying?
Yes.
I don't know. Some people are doing it, no, Mary?
Yeah, a lot of people are doing models like that.
Similar kind of thing may not be at this scale, but it's being done.
Okay.
But you see, Yunus was the culprit, no? He came up with this thing, women are also bankable.
Yes.
And according to me, that's when our, the debt in the villages went skyrocketing. because every Tom, Dick and Harry set up this credit, what's that, microcredit thing?
Microfinance,
Microfinance, so they get money from outside, then they give it as a loan, they pay themselves great, anywhere between 24 to 60% interest rates they were charging.
So interesting, isn't it? While the lending happened in microfinance, the wealth went out of villages.
Exactly.
People didn't realize Yunus model, had a huge negative impact on local wealth.
Absolutely.
It took away all the wealth from villages and centralized in big banks or a microfinance institutions.
See, the things about thrift and credit, it is there from India. It's not Yunus is much later actor who brought in the microcredit, but thrift is very much part of the Indian context. Cooperative is very much part of pre-independence also it was existing. So you asked about how our model, it is like the federation, every single system is built by the women. Because we started also very small, like 10 villages, 300 women, starting like in one village only, say 30 women. And they are keen on asked like what is it like that you want to do. This talking about money, like we want cash in our hands because we are supposed to look after the households and we have no money. And we have no money to, we cannot borrow money.
But you should tell the story, Mary. It's not right. This to me, that is the most phenomenal thing. See, Mary was involved in organizing all the people in that 400 villages in that place at one time. And they had formed these unions and all that kind of stuff. And for 2 years she didn't do because she was involved in Timbaktu. Then she said, Baba, I'm a professional social worker. I can't sit like this and do this. I need to go. So we had no vehicle. We had nothing with us. We had 500 rupees in the bank and we had 3 children. And we were in Timbaktu, which is like nowhere. And so Mary then started walking to the villages. So the first village I think was Nehmadulla, no? Chinnapalli. Anyway, so she started going from village to village, walking and talking to the old women because she knew them. So she would call them together and start talking and say like, okay, so now what do you want to do? I have not come here to organize you or anything like that. What is it you want to do? And all of them came up with this thing saying that we want money. And we don't have money, we didn't have any money. So they came up with the idea that we'll start chit funds, right, Mary?
So I said like, okay, you don't have money. Same thing is with your men also. They also don't have money. They said like, no, they have other ways. So they do chit funds. And anyway, daily wages, whether we do the work also, money will go to them. Money is there in their hand. We have to plead for them for any expenditure. And if you want to do something bigger, want to buy a cow or something, and we don't have, but they can take this because they can take a chit fund, something, whatever. So I said like, okay, then let's start a chit fund. So why don't you do chit fund? They said like, we don't know reading and writing. I said, I can read and write. So I said like, okay, let's do chit fund. Ask how you know it. So in that, running it for a few months, big problem. They said like, this is very exploitative because it's like auctioning, no? If you have a need, you pay very high interest. And they were literally fighting with one another. Like we paid so much money because of health problem in the family, and those who didn't take the money, they are getting all the benefit and big whatever. That's when we decided, we also discussed and like, what is the solution for this? Then this called thrift model with fixed interest rate. Once that was explored, and we went and visited people who are doing in elsewhere, thrift model. And that was explored, and then we came back, started that was like really getting stable. But when but at the same time, every month, whoever is involved in 3 villages, there are 3-4 sanghas, the leaders and me will sit together. How did it go? And then we make systems for that. Every stage we made systems. How do we loan application? They only told, I will write down. They will say, let us make an application in this way.
See, this is how the whole system evolved. We didn't go there with a system. It was, Mary and this group of women and there were about 10 women in the beginning, all of whom had gone looking for ways of doing that. But there was not an idea that this is how it should be done. Nobody knew. She didn't know. They did not know. So together that system evolved, and that is why it is so strong.
And it was hardly any money involved in it. It was like hardly any, I remember some 5 lakhs for first 2-3 years to pay. Actually, when after the number crossed 750,000, we took one accountant. So one office space and one accountant money. It was so inexpensive. Just getting the money together and giving it as loan, and at every month putting it up on a chart. And even in the first directors of the cooperative, only one person could read and write. So we'll put up a chart and we will, it's like 1 lakh means 5 zeros. And then women will actually count it. And it was like a learning together and taking small loans, small decisions, doing good, going to the next level. It's like all systems grew like that, And then fortunately by 95, the new act was passed. It was actually work of NGOs to promote that MAX Act. And then we got onto that act. Probably one of the first organizations we actually implemented that act and made all our systems according to that. And when the cooperative was being formed, it was a big issue. Money was going outside the village. Till then, people used to come with actual money to the office. In my Sangha, 5,000 was not even thousands at that time. Anyway, 3,000 came, 2,000 people took, 1,000 is remaining. Another woman will take that 1,000 and go and give to her village. But when the money was going to outside their village, there was a lot of them dropped out because then the trust thing came up. But once they are able to sort it out, it was going to, they all came back and joined after that.
So coming back to some of the agrarian challenges, Bablu, you have seen.
But you guys, I keep telling you, you should start this here. Your farmers earn much more money, and if you all can start it, if 1,200 farmers can save money, you can become a bank overnight.
I think that's what I think we want to take some of those ideas, which has worked for you, maybe put these farmers together, maybe allow them to lend among themselves, so that rather than any external bank coming and lending. Yes, and so that actually whoever is in need actually borrows and money stays within the system. So coming to some of the agrarian challenges, young people and how to make them coming back. Last 14 years, we have been trying to pilot Akshayakalpa, where we are working with very, very select farmers, not many, around 1,200, 1,300 farmers, and trying to put some money into their hand. But in the process, what we realized, Bablu, is probably system doesn't exist to support initiatives like this, and a lot of struggle we have to go through. You have seen what we are doing. What do you suggest in terms of do we really have a future for agriculture in India? Maybe agriculture is a big word, farming in India. Would young people come back? And what do you think next steps for farming? Maybe I would also want to discuss some of the challenges we face on the consumer side. While to make this farming viable, our fundamental belief is consumers should understand farming and food. So that is when you can transform farming. So maybe the first question, Bablu, would they come back?
I think you're spot on this, where the crux of the whole thing is the consumer. If we can do this consumer education, basically, it is if they can create the demand. We have to get them to create the demand. Has to happen from somewhere, no? So they have to create the demand. So that this whole thing about convincing them good food is good, right? And not only just good, is necessary. And if we can get the kind of data that, a lot of people have done work, but someone has to put this data together and someone has to convince the consumers to, first of all, want good food. That is one thing. And then to support the people who will give them the good food. And this whole business of, oh, good food is so expensive. Oh, this organic food is so expensive, much beyond, what is this, ordinary people can't have it, So now the thing is, and this is what I keep saying, India has possibly one of the countries that has the cheapest food available. But, and that is good. I think it's really good that there is cheap food available. But it has the costs of the farmer, no? And, 46 years ago I went to the village. And 46 years ago, what the farmer was earning, he or she is earning more or less the same now. With inflation, if you take it, more or less the same. Whereas the price of gold and price of this and that has like skyrocketed, right? And they are surviving only because their children have gone out and are sending money, really speaking.
So, but isn't it, what should we do, Bablu? It's a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
How do we tell consumers, hey, you know what, for a good food you have to pay. And if you don't pay, the good food doesn't happen. Okay, there's no magic there. You can't buy through good food through money. You need to go and understand initiatives which are actually.
No, they have to invest on the farmers.
So the challenge is that, Bablu, so nobody, I don't think there's a conscious effort being made to educate. For example, you told, in a typical cost of production model of a factory, you count everything.
True.
You count labor, okay, you count inputs, you count everything which goes in, then you have got a cost of goods, then you add some profit margin and you sell it. Farmer subsidizes everything. It doesn't count his labor, it doesn't count his wife's labor, it doesn't count his child labor, it doesn't count his own farm value, it doesn't count any of those. He still continues to produce food.
He does not know, the consumer does not. The consumer does not pay for the ecosystem services. I mean, all that nature is providing to us is not paid for.
Yes.
And that has been the bane. No, I mean, the problem here is that there is no investment in agriculture. Not now. Since before independence. And I mean, Albert Howard, he talks about that. So if everything, land has to be owned by the farmer, credit has to be the farmers, water is farmers. I mean, the USA, you want to do agriculture, they will bring water to you, right? You can demand water.
Yes.
And here, we have to have the water. So the whole risk is that of the farmers. Nobody else takes the risk. Now the state, the duty of the state is when 60 to 70% of your population is agri population, you invest in that, no? Imagine how much is being invested in these industries. We were talking about it. For every product that comes out, there is at least 50 to 60 times amount money that has been spent in developing that product.
Yes.
The R&D that is done, I mean, people pay lakhs for these Apple products.
Yes.
Why? Because the R&D into that is something incredible. And so, I mean, I like this. We were talking to Mary, we were talking between us, and like, people who are working on the farm, they are paid industrial wages.
Yes.
And that's how it should be.
Yes.
And that cost has to be taken. So in agriculture, there is no such thing as true cost accounting.
Correct.
You have to have the true cost. Once you put the true cost, then the consumer better pay that.
See, that's unfortunately, nobody wants to get into that articulation. You know the sham around MSP. MSP is the biggest sham, okay? Can you buy everything farmer produces in MSP? You don't. You only buy part of it and show you are doing some great service. It is not true. And what is the government is buying that MSP when it is actually coming back to market at a lesser price, hitting farmer, okay, on his knuckles. Then he is correct. Correct. Now he has to sell at what market demands. Okay, and consumer not being aware of this entire ecosystem, okay, living in I should say fool's paradise, saying that everything is fine, I am getting food into my plate.
True.
But Bablu, okay, at least our 14 years of experience does show that if you consciously educate consumer, needs to be very conscious education. If you take for example last 1 year, we bought 25, you might have met some of our consumers walking around. Last 1 year we bought 25,000 consumers of Akshayakalpa to visit our farmers.
That's how it should
Okay,
be.
and we need to make them eat what they are eating. We need to live with them. They need to live with them. They need to understand where he is living, how much he gets paid, how is he growing food, what cost he is growing, what is his lifestyle. So we don't have these kind of what you call systems in place where consumer actually starts asking questions around this. If you go to a grocery store, ask where the groceries came from. You might not know the answer, but people will become conscious and start in that journey. You also started.
So what you have hit on is a model which is called CSA, Consumer Supported Agriculture, right? Which you know. I truly believe that that's the future. We have to go to the consumer. No other way will work.
I think the biggest purchasing power is in his hand.
Yeah.
So he is the decision maker how the farming to be done.
Yeah.
And Timbaktu Organic also trying to get some market access to produce which otherwise had no market access. That initiative itself is I saw some of the work they are doing, women getting employed there and trying to organize.
We didn't have the guts like you. We didn't have the guts to price the product at that level, which you were able to do. I mean, what you've done is absolutely brilliant. What we managed to do was to get the farmers to earn a little bit more money, but not at the scale that you have done. We have not given the kind of services that you are giving to the farmers. No, Mary. We have not done consumer education like the way you have done. I think those things have to be done.
See, what happened in Akshayakalpa, probably we were lucky, and also Dr. Reddy also had a huge influence on how this organization got shaped up. And you made farmers earn at an average 20 to 25 lakhs to 30 lakhs a year, in farming. And that was unheard of. And it's not a 1 or 2 examples or run-in-the-mill examples. Examples, are 1,200 examples what we have set in. But I still see there's a lot of resistance, in consumer space. If the brands like us, they are not willing to invest in education, consumer himself is not seeking out. What should we do, Bablu? What should we start a movement like how you started? Hey, Mr. Consumer or a Mrs. Consumer, see this is what, it
But
is.
you are doing, no?
But how do you do it at a scale? See,
At a scale, you could promote a consumer cooperative like these people in Korea did.
Yeah. You know the story of Hansalim.
Hansalim did. They are really they have gotten into the mode of what you are saying, and I think it's one fantastic approach, and they are organized and they are really. I was there present in one of their like annual general body kind of a thing. It's fantastic, the whole festival was happening. And so there is the consumers and there are the farmers, all the food stalls, so much interaction. and so much intertwined, And I spoke to some of the consumers. They knew a lot, and they were saying like, how is the farming happening? What are the problems there? What do they farm? How do they farm? So much information, to an outsider. They were sharing like a farmer, so much together, That may be a one great model for.
Yes, I think yes. Yeah, from a consumer's point of view, how do we get them together? Again, talk a common language is one area.
Ansalem has 2,000 farmers.
Yes.
And 400,000, now I think it's about 500,000
Huge number of
members.
Yes.
And you are positioned to do that. You really are positioned to do that. I mean, you're saying 70,000. Few years back, it was some 8,000. Now, you really are in position to now get the consumers to form into that. Because it's not just Akshayakalpa, no? I mean, there is,
Yes.
the food basket is much bigger. You are one of the players in that basket. So how can this cooperative then put its demands? Because what Hansalem does is it puts its demand on the government.
Yes.
They are able to do it, and it's a smaller country, of course, but they are able to do it. So here we can also do that.
This is a great opportunity from the health sector, because especially after COVID, immunity, whatever, lifestyle diseases, and people talking about organic, people talking about, the whole Punjab situation, the cancer and the chemicals. There's a much wider knowledge. Even 10 years back, it was like, okay, whatever. But now there is like yesterday your friend was talking about, about the chemicals in the, So doctors are talking about it now. Can you get some organically grown food? Recently for something I went and they were talking to me about organic. And I was saying I'm eating organic to a large extent. Anyway, so there is a much wider awareness on that. That's an opportunity also, I think, to.
That's one initiative of Kalpavalli, how a simple initiatives like that can transform actually ecology. Simple grassland, okay. From outside it looks like a grassland, but the diversity out there, grazing systems out there, how a community can become a owner of such an ecosystem. How did that thought came, Bablu?
That's what I'm saying. No, none of this, it just happened. See, our story is it just happened, okay. I can't describe it any other way. It was not like Ramanujan who, got it from Mother God. We didn't get it like that. It just happened. So what we saw happening in Timbaktu is what actually inspired us. We started in 91, we had 21 species. By 97, we had 340 species, of which there was 10 of them had never been seen in Andhra. Forget about Anantapur. Okay. And this is a Coimbatore, I mean that species, whatever they said it. And so when this happened, in this span of time, we said, this also can happen elsewhere, no?
Yes.
So we started going to the village and talking to them about it. It took us 1 year to convince them to take up 125 acres. Bas. Then once they start seeing what is happening, they started joining in slowly. But of course we were also lucky. We were lucky in the sense like the day we started the protection program, somehow the tank started filling up every year. Every year the tank was full. So it's a luck. Or the gods are happy that we had started this. Whatever, we had this. And then, it was the next village and the next village and the next village. They began to see that there is some sense in this. And that they could take their sheep there, they could take their goats there, they could take their animals there. And so all that started happening. The whole thing just grew. And from there we began to understand that you don't have to keep the animals out. You don't have to keep people out. the more we get involved with nature and begin to live with nature, the more we interact with nature, the more she flourishes. No, this whole idea of keeping people out, keeping animals out of that, and then letting nature do her job is completely wrong. We began to understand the moment we started accepting that and allowing, and therefore now what, 100,000, 120,000 sheep, goat come there from 25, 30 kilometers away. It's a sheep head and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think some of us who don't know about Kalpavalli initiative, it's around 125, 130 acres of grassland.
No, 3,500.
Right now it is now 3,500 acres. Okay. Now it's a grassland ecosystem. It is owned by a community and run by a community, managed by a community, where it has become a community resource. What started as a small 120 acres initiative, now everybody joined, pool that land. Now, while we continue to destroy commons, it's a great example where commons can actually generate wealth. So it's actually wealth generating mechanism. Right now we don't understand that. We can't actually put an accounting system for that. But people have accepted. Oh, I didn't know it's a 3,000 acres.
Yeah.
Okay.
3,500 it is more actually. Officially under survey it is that much. It's not owned by them, it is a commons. It's revenue based in the thing. But we got permissions for protection from the government and all that. We have managed to put them in the prevention, what is that? Preventive order book, where that cannot be just so off just for like that for anything.
But we are very worried because we don't have any right, the people don't have any right on that land. It's government land, okay. So any day, like they did with the windmills. So he managed to stop the windmills from spreading further, but they got the windmills. And so it's a big actually task. We have to somehow get the government to give us guarantee that this land will not be alienated from the people. And I don't know how we are going to do it.
We are trying, we are still in the process. There are 10 villages in that area and 10 village committees. And behind them there is also a village Sangha behind it. So it has been a lot of work, and we also have organized this watcher system for about 500, 600 acres, one person, just to go around and do some patrolling and things like that. But for this, especially in drought years, for the cattle and the small ruminants, has been a great help, yeah, especially in drought years. Suddenly in severe drought situation, like no fodder anywhere, everything dry up. In some places in Kalpavalli, there is still.
It's possibly the largest community protected biodiversity region in savanna grasslands.
Amazing. So just people, savannas, if a equator, if you go on 20 degrees south, 20 degrees north, this is classified as savannas. Entire Deccan Plateau in India is savannas. Okay, and we have systematically over a period of time destroyed savannas, either through government projects or industry or your great windmills. We see a value in windmills, we don't see a value in a grassland.
It's worthless.
Okay, it's worthless. So that's how the narrative has evolved. But amazing, Bablu and Mary, talking to you, and a farming, okay, communities, and in and around that kind of ecosystems which exist, starting from these grasslands, okay, to these are women communities, to women empowerment, okay, to schooling, okay, for teaching farming. Amazing journey yours has been last 45 years. Of course, I'm not discounting any of your work you have done earlier to that, before 1990 amount of work, coming from a family of freedom fighters.
See, quite honestly, I have enjoyed this whole trip. To me, it's not been difficult. Actually, we are very blessed. We are extremely blessed. everything has been okay. I mean, in between, you get things like uh, bone broken here or, something in between. But otherwise, I think our journey has been quite a blessed journey. Don't you think, Mary?
Yeah.
Our children don't think so. But I mean, poor fellows. We went doing all this and they missed us a lot. We also missed them. But otherwise, I think we were quite happy doing what we were doing.
Again, thank you for coming down here at Akshayakalpa. And Akshayakalpa, what you are doing, you are inspiration. We have borrowed a lot of things, your thoughts, over a period of last 14, 15 years. And that's what we have done. Amazing. Thank you.
No, it's been a total pleasure.
Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I've been wanting to come here for at least for 10 years. Somehow it didn't happen. And yeah, I was very happy coming here, lot of learning. And in the beginning you were saying, is it really impactful? I could see the impact straight away with this farmer, very happily telling how much he is getting. And he is confident and he is happy and he is sense of achievement. And that's what young people want to come back to this place, So.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Bablu. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
We have some coffee if you want.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you, please.
Yeah.
Now I have some coffee.
Two mosquitoes.
You couldn't keep, you were finding it difficult.
They're harassing me.